The Raptors suffered another disappointing loss last night to the Indiana Pacers, and it was definitely a game where Fred VanVleet showed up from behind the three-point line. The Raptors probably win this game, so in today's video we need to answer if Fred VanVleet has a future with this organization, and if not, what can the Raptors do to maximize his value? Let's get into it. What's going on, NBA and Raptors fans? This is Amateur Hour Sports, your source for the greatest coverage and analysis on the latest Toronto Raptors news. We do videos like this and live stream watch parties for every single Raptors game. So if you like what you see from today's video, then make sure you are subscribed to the channel. Help me on my road to 14,000 subscribers. And if you find yourself enjoying along the way, please be sure to drop a like to give it extra support to the YouTube channel. It does matter a lot for that YouTube algorithm. It only takes you a second out of your view day. So please, if you enjoy, do drop that like. But let's get into our content for today. This video is going to be centered around Fred VanVleet because yesterday it was very evident what Fred VanVleet was doing wrong for this Raptors team and wasn't doing good enough as the Raptors lose to the Indiana Pacers. This was a game where it was pretty tight throughout. Indiana had a bit of a run near the end of the second quarter. The Raptors had a run at the start of the third quarter. It all balanced out to a pretty wild finish and a very close finish, but ultimately, it was the Indiana Pacers who had the players who could hit the big shots late in the game that pushed them well over the line here. The Pacers improved to 21-17. They're looking like a good team, but the focus, of course, is the Raptors, who have now fallen to 16-21 on this season. Now, January, the schedule gets a little bit lighter overall, but the start of this new year is going to be difficult. And now the Raptors take on the Milwaukee Bucks tomorrow, which is obviously going to be a very, very difficult game. The Raptors season just kind of seems to be slipping out of control here, and it's really making me think at this point. 16-21, knowing the teams are at the top of the Eastern Conference you're likely going to face in the first round of the playoffs if you even get there, it really is starting to make me think, like, what is the point of going all out this season based on what we consistently see from this team and consistently what the starting point guard is unfortunately given the team. Yesterday, the Raptors, I thought, looked really, really good overall as a team. The starting unit looked great. Gary Trent was back in the starting lineup, and the way the Raptors moved the ball, like especially in the first half, it was so good to see. It was so pleasing to the eye to watch the Raptors play offense. And what was happening that was different in this game was that Scottie Barnes was the one predominantly initiating the offense. And though he didn't really score a lot in the first half, he did second half. I thought he was exceptional even without the scoring in the first half. The way he was dictating the pace of the offense, the way he was moving the ball, content on the outside to not be guarded for his three-point shot. Like, his three-point shot was not at all respected by the Pacers yesterday. I don't think for bad reason at all there for the Pacers, but what I'm saying is if the ball got to Barnes, within a second, he fired it away, knew the next pass, and just constantly kept the ball moving on offense, which freed up other players for open three-pointers, and the Raptors were shooting the three ball exceptionally well in the first half. And I thought that Scottie Barnes on ball, I mean, I've said multiple times this season that the offense looks at its best when Scottie Barnes is initiating and the offensive burden isn't on Scottie, but the playmaking burden is. That's just an area where it seems like he can thrive a little bit more, looking really good in the point guard position. Scottie Barnes, being the primary initiator of the ball on offense, also provides Fred VanVleet with some more off-ball opportunities to get open for catch-and-shoot three-pointers. Like I said, I think it's best for Scottie Barnes to be in that role. And I think for Fred VanVleet, who has really, really struggled to shoot the ball this season, I think that's better for him as well because the three ball hasn't been falling. So why not give him the highest percentage looks, the catch and shoot looks, rather than Fred as the predominant ball handler, the dominant ball handler, trying to create for himself off the dribble, which has not been successful this season. Well, the former happened. Scottie Barnes looked really good, like I said. And, you know, Fred VanVleet, he did get a lot of extra three-point opportunities off the catch and shoot, which was good to see. Great opportunities for him. The problem was he did not take him. And as the game came down to the wire, Buddy Hield had some tough three-pointers that he hit for the Pacers back-to-back, whereas Fred VanVleet had a wide-open catch-and-shoot three to tie the game that he missed. The Pacers go the other way and get an and one for a 6-point swing to go up by 6 rather than the Raptors tying the game. And then next play, the Raptors, or a couple plays later, the Raptors were down by 5. Fred with an opportunity to cut it down to 2. It was something like that. Wide open corner three. Nobody on him, nobody near him. Bricks the corner three. Both three-pointers also well off the mark. First one was well to the left. The second one was well short. Just very disappointing and frustrating to see from a player, honestly, who did have a good statistical December. He was playing a lot better in December. I know the Raptors' record seriously faltered in December, but as to Fred VanVleet's overall statistics and his offensive output, he was much better. The reason he was much better in December was that he was getting more of these on-ball opportunities. So it was getting him to the rim a little bit more, where he was doing a lot better. He was starting to knock down a bit better of a percentage of his threes. Overall, the percentages for Fred have never been good and still remain that. In fact, they've consistently been below average shooting-wise, and they've been even worse than that for Fred VanVleet this season. But the offensive numbers were starting to pick up in December. But the Raptors' offense as a whole, I think, looked a lot worse. And what was very telling about yesterday offensively was that the Raptors look at their best when Scottie Barnes is initiating the offense. He makes the game come easier to all of the other players around him. And while he's doing that, Scottie Barnes that was one of his best games yesterday. He had a 23, 8, and 8 night. So while Scottie Barnes is making the game easier for everybody else, he's still able to thrive on his own and get his own statistics all throughout the game. It was just very telling that Scottie Barnes can run the offense for the Raptors, and that the Raptors in general offensively can run their game and probably look a little bit better without Fred VanVleet involved. I mean, from a shooting standpoint, Fred VanVleet can offer the Raptors a ton in that department, but there's the thing about his mentality. He doesn't want to be the guy that's off ball as a catch and shoot threat. That's not the role that he wants to be because, I know he was really, really poor from a shooting standpoint yesterday. I think he finished 3 for 12 from 3. Abysmal shooting numbers. That can pick up. That can be a lot better for Fred VanVleet and has been a lot better for Fred VanVleet. Not consistently this season, but I know he's not going to be comfortable playing in that role. Defensively as well, Pacers are very guard dominant. A lot of quick players, a lot of fast players. Fred VanVleet was quite poor on defense yesterday, got blown by a lot all throughout the game, especially late in the game, a couple of possessions where he just gets beat and he puts the Raptors in a difficult situation, and as simple as that, the Pacers took advantage of those situations. So Fred VanVleet has struggled this season, 100%. Fred VanVleet also in a contract year this season. This makes it a very tricky scenario for the Toronto Raptors to deal with. We're just over a month away from the NBA's trade deadline, and I just constantly see mock trades being floated around for Fred on Twitter. I see mock trades being floated around in my Discord, on my live streams, all over the place, in the comment sections. I see mock trades involving Fred VanVleet. Now, I'm not as sold on just you have to trade no matter what. In fact, I'm not sold on that at all. I'm always preaching that nobody is untouchable. If you're going to get a good trade, then you go ahead and trade a guy. But a lot of the mock trades I see, like there's one from Orlando being floated around that doesn't really make any sense for Orlando. I'd say about 90% of these mock trades are people considering what the Raptors need and what the Raptors can get and not what the other team is getting here. Now, again, I'm not just fixating on the fact the Raptors have to trade Fred VanVleet. I don't think that at all, but I do believe that the Raptors can operate, maybe even operate in a better fashion offensively with Fred VanVleet not being there and the Raptors adding in some other pieces there. But that is easier said than done. This is a little bit of the problem that Fred VanVleet is giving the team here because he's a good player. He can be a good player, but do the Raptors want to commit to running the offense in the way with Scottie Barnes as the point guard? Because I think that a starting five of Barnes, Trent, Siakam, Anunoby, and a proper rim protector, if it has to be Koloko for now, it has to be Koloko for now. I think that lineup can be wildly successful as a unit and can look really good as a unit on both ends of the floor there. I think you can find some more depth pieces for Fred VanVleet, but it is much easier said than done. Whether you keep Fred or not, that is okay to me. But decisions need to be made about whether or not he is going to be a part of the future. And if the Raptors want to identify that he is not going to be a part of the future, well, there are certain ways you can go about it. You can obviously trade him before the deadline. You can extend him and then look for a trade at that point at the end of the season. You can let him walk for free at the end of the season. And I think the first thing the Raptors, if we want to talk about letting him leave for free at the end of the season, that's a little bit of a disaster situation where the Raptors, who aren't the best at recouping out of the free agency pool, having to replace, whatever you want to say about Fred struggling, the Raptors are not better just without Fred VanVleet involved, period. Without him involved at all, that doesn't make the Toronto Raptors better. Losing an asset for free, an asset of that caliber, would be a bit of a disaster situation for the Toronto Raptors. But how much do you have to pay Fred VanVleet once you get into the offseason? We've seen players making close to, if not more than $30 million who are guards, younger, better guards possibly than Fred VanVleet, but Jalen Brunson made $25 million a year last season. The salary cap is going up. Fred VanVleet is probably going to be asking for somewhere in the range of $25 to $28 million. Could we even see him asking for $30 million? These are distinct possibilities for the Raptors. Those contracts, based on what you're seeing from Fred, who looks to be on a decline, who maybe injuries have kind of caught up to him, that would be a really big commitment from the team. So if you do want to go into the trade market, you guys have to remember here, this is a player that's struggling. And the type of people that are just coming out with mock trades all the time for Fred VanVleet are the type of people saying that he has absolutely no value for this team. So you have to look at other teams looking at Fred right now. This is a player who probably doesn't possess a ton of value from a skill standpoint. He's still a very skillful player, and as a player that can run your offense, if you're looking for a ball-dominant guard, he can be that guy, and there are teams who could be interested in ball handlers and ball-dominant players, but you also have to factor in that he is on an expiring contract. So trading him to the Spurs for Pirtle and Richardson, well, why would the Spurs, who are tanking, want Fred VanVleet? Fred VanVleet would just leave at the end of the season. They'd get nothing out of that. There's been that trade with Orlando. They're not tanking, but they're not going to make the playoffs. Why would they want a player like Fred VanVleet who's just going to leave at the end of the season? And why would the Orlando Magic give up assets like players and a first-round pick in order to make that happen? That just doesn't make any sense. Fred VanVleet would have to go to a team that is a playoff team that wants to improve themselves, possibly a contender who wants to add in another ball handler. But those are the only sort of trades that can happen, and it would need to be a player. They'd need, a player who can be a ball handler. Like the Dallas Mavericks, they need more ball handlers. But the Raptors, we would need a player from Dallas. We'd need Spencer Dinwiddie back. But that wouldn't make any sense for Dallas to take Fred VanVleet just to lose a ball handler because they need to add in a ball handler. Losing one to bring one in doesn't make sense for the Dallas Mavericks. So trading him is incredibly difficult going to the deadline, and I seriously doubt a trade is going to manufacture itself. So the question will become, is it worth it to sign him at the end of the season? And based on what we're seeing right now, it doesn't really look like that is going to be the best option for the Raptors. Maybe have that good amount of money in the offseason to maybe chase a trade, maybe chase a free agent. But I think that a really good future outlook for this team is a reality where Scottie Barnes is the predominant playmaker of this team and is just on the ball a ton. I think that is a reality that works out here. But there's a ton of basketball left this season. There's a ton of games. There's over half a season for Fred VanVleet to kind of recoup here. But it's clear that he has not been good for the first half of the season, almost halfway through the season. It's clear that he has not been good enough for this Toronto Raptors team. We need him to step up. If he doesn't, a difficult decision is definitely going to need to be made by Masai Ujiri, Bobby Webster, and the Toronto Raptors front office. But this team needs to figure out how to get more out of him. I think having him in those off-ball situations to just get that three-point ball back, try to get it back, are the best spots. But I think this team can be really good going forward with that five I listed. Barnes, Trent, Siakam, Anunoby, and a rim protector if you can get one, maybe with the money in the offseason, maybe through a trade at the deadline. We'll see. But Fred VanVleet, some difficult conversations need to be had. The Raptors season outlook, that's another difficult conversation because I'm starting to look at this at 16-21 like, what is the point of continuing forward trying to win games? All right, that wraps up from today on Amateur Hour Sports. Bit of a more depressing topic than normal, but that's the state of this team, unfortunately. If you did enjoy, however, my content and my analysis, please be sure to drop a like. It does go a long way to supporting the content. And make sure you are subscribed to Amateur Hour Sports for more videos like this and live stream watch parties for every Raptors game. See you tomorrow as the Raptors take on the Milwaukee Bucks.